The Walmart FLW Tour visits South Carolina's Lake Murray this week. The third stop on the tour poses new challenges for the world's best anglers. Hank Parker joins us today to help preview the action on the water and learn the tactics of today's top pros competing in the most lucrative fishing series on the planet. It all starts right now on FLW Outdoors. Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of FLW Outdoors. I'm Carlton Wing with Taylor Carr and Hank Parker. We're joining you from Lake Murray in South Carolina. This is the third stop on the Walmart FLW Tour.
And it's a different Lake Murray. You know, 1 year ago we'd have been about 10 or 15 feet underwater in this spot. Hank, this lake has changed immeasurably.
I tell you, they're pulling it down. They're doing some work on the dam, and by pulling this lake down with the pre-spawn that we're dealing with now, normally these fish would be spawning up here. So it's the first time the fish have ever experienced this, so they're going to be confused. You know, the fishermen have got to be a little bit confused on where to find these spawning fish, so it's going to be a challenge.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this confusion, because at every stop on the FLW Tour, some anglers will have a home lake advantage. But even the guys who have fished here all their lives are going to find this a very different body of water.
It may even be a disadvantage to have that home field advantage, because it's going to be so dramatically different than what it's been. So you may be hung up on little areas that now are not going to be productive at all because they'll be dry.
How would you attack this lake, Hank? How would you prepare for this tournament?
You know, we got a real enlightening weigh-in with the BFL tournament just a couple of weeks ago, so I'm familiar with what happened there. And those fish were caught in the lower part of the lake, around the grass, around the islands, off the point, staging. I would assume that those fish are just going to move up on those points. They don't have these flats to spawn on. They'll move up on those points and spawn in the grass. So I think the fish are going to be close to where they were caught. They're just going to be up much shallower in that same grass.
We've got three anglers coming up a little bit later on in this program with Hank Parker, and we learned a little bit from all three. What can we expect?
Well, I think we'll see what they do and see their approach, and they're aware of the BFL weigh-in as well. So I think that's playing on everybody's mind, and I think that'll be a factor in how they set their strategies, and we'll see that just coming up in a few minutes.
Our anglers are Wesley Strader, Robert Pearson, and also John Sappington, and they each have three ideas different on how to attack this lake.
And I think that's unique, and that's pretty much common with all of our stops so far. Each angler's got their own perspective and their own approach, so we'll get to see that coming up.
Before we launch in, Hank, we got to congratulate you. You have been announced as a new member of the Pro Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. Well-deserved, and congratulations.
Well, I appreciate that, and it is quite an honor. I'm humbled by that, so it's exciting for me, and I'm in there with some great company with our comrade Larry Nixon, and that's pretty exciting.
Hank Parker will join three of our FLW pros a little bit later on in the program, and coming up next on FLW Outdoors, a preview of a very different Lake Murray in South Carolina.
Here's today's Field and Stream trivia. Whom is Lake Murray named after? Is it Ephraim Z. Murray, Bill Murray, Fred McMurray, or William S. Murray? Murray. He was the chief engineer for construction of the dam that created Lake Murray in 1930.
Welcome back to FLW Outdoors. We're joining you from Lake Murray in South Carolina, the site of the third stop on the Walmart FLW Tour. And Taylor, this waterway has changed dramatically, down as much as 15 feet, and it's really changing the way the anglers are attacking this tournament.
FLW anglers have to adjust every tournament. Look at what they've done so far this year. Lake Okeechobee, a huge natural lake in Florida, the Atchafalaya Basin, also big, tidal water in Louisiana. This is a man-made reservoir. It's a whole different kind of fishery. Plus, it's down 15 feet. It all requires adjustments by the best anglers in the world.
All right, guys, we're ready to catch fish now.
It's the FLW Tour's third trip to Lake Murray, but it might as well be the first. Water levels on Murray are down about 15 feet, so even the pros who fished here for years have a new lake to learn.
It's going to be a new body of water for everyone involved, even the locals.
Nothing looks the same. There's no fish in places where they're normally at in the spring because it's all dry. Normally Lake Murray goes down about 5 or 6 foot, and like I say, it's down 15 foot. They're working on the dam, so it's going to be a lot of fish caught and a lot of good sacks brought in every day.
Sounds like a real good test for these anglers.
Real good test because actually there's not going to be a local advantage because the lake is so low. You know, we're all fishing new water too.
How Murray fishes also depends a lot on the spawn. Water temperatures are in the 50s, and a full moon is only a few days away, and that could bode well for sight anglers.
Yeah, I think it's going to be wide open. I think, you know, it's going to be such a new lake that, you know, anybody's going to have a chance. And, you know, the thing I see, though, I see it being another big bedding tournament. So, you know, I think the really good bed fishermen are going to be out there and, you know, really catching those bedding fish.
Evinrude pro Davey Hite is one of the biggest Lake Murray fans you'll find. He grew up near the North Shore.
But it's a great lake. It has a lot to offer. You know, you have vegetation on the lower end of this lake, the primary cover for the bass. And the upper end, there's a lot of wood, and the water clarity is a lot more stained up there. So there's just a lot of variety here. It has a lot to offer. We've been here at FLW 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and it was some record catches. And it'll be that way again this year. You know, the spring of the year on Lake Murray, it rates right up there with the best of the fisheries throughout the country.
More with Davey Hite on his favorite lake later in the show. At about 20 miles long and 8 miles at its widest, Murray's 55,000 acres is tiny compared to Okeechobee and the Atchafalaya Basin. With the lake down about 15 feet and the fish more concentrated, the tournament figures to have a different tone than the season's first 2 events.
It's normally like 55,000 acres, and now it's like fishing 38,000 acres, which that sounds like a lot, but when you put this quality fisherman on it, it makes it a small place.
The FLW's been to Lake Murray twice. In 1999, Mike Wurm's 18 pounds on day 4 blew the field away. And in 2000, Clark Wendlandt sight fished his way to a title on Murray.
Here's a look at your banana boat outdoor conditions. It's hard to get any better weather-wise than day 1. Sunny skies and highs in the 70s. However, thunderstorms will usher in rain, which will make an appearance for the rest of the tournament. Temperatures will drop down to the 50s on Saturday. The UV index will drop from Wednesday's 6 to Saturday's 4. Coming up next on FLW Outdoors, Hank Parker talks with last year's champion on Lake Washita, Fuji pro Wesley Strader.
Hi, and welcome back to FLW Outdoors. We're going to be fishing with 3 anglers today here on Lake Murray in South Carolina. We're going to start with Wesley Strader. You're going to tell us everything we need to know, aren't you?
Well, I'm going to tell you what I think we need to know. I mean, probably might not be the right thing, but I'm going to tell you what I think. I found out if you hit it and you rip it out, you won't get a bite, but when it's down like this, you're going to have everybody piled together down here on in this grass. They could just pull up on one of these points and spawn on the point itself. They think this big green boat is the biggest female bass they have ever seen in their life. But you can get down and just let it tick. Up until about 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't know that shad come from the ocean. Where I come from, I grew up at home in East Tennessee. We have Douglas Lake, Cherokee Lake, North Lake, and they all fall, 50, 60 foot during the fall and in the wintertime. And what that does is all your fish that are like back up in those flats, when they draw that water down, it congregates them all together. And it seems to me like at certain times the fishing's a little bit easier when you got all those fish stacked together and they're competing for bait, and they're just a little bit easier to catch sometimes. So
when you fish a body of water like we have here at Lake Murray, and you know that everybody you've seen for the last 3 or 4 days is basically on the same pattern, does that make you want to do something different?
Yeah, you want to go do something different, and I'm going to go do something different, a little bit different, but the thing is, there's been so many big fish being caught out of this grass. I don't think that I think maybe a man can go up the river and catch keeper size fish, which you may luck into a big one or 2, but there's just so many healthy, big fish coming out of this grass down here right now. It'd be hard to, beat somebody at the river, I think.
Does that BFL weigh in that all those fish that were caught down here on this end of the lake? I guess it's pretty common knowledge that there were just tons and tons of fish, 30-couple pounds on it, and all those fish were caught pretty much on this end of the lake. Does that influence you any?
Well, it lets you know that they're down here, but things is a little bit different than it was in the BFL. Things just sort of went south a little bit. I mean, a lot of those guys that caught them in the BFL, from what I understand, caught them out on the, you know, the ledges and on the outside grass line on points, and those fish are leaving, like we were talking about earlier. They're coming, I feel like they're coming this way. I feel like the winning stringer's either going to come from the back of the pocket, secondary point, or, you know, somewhere close to the back of the spawning ground.
You don't believe they're going to be on the main channel hump? You think you got the pattern figured out? It's just now putting it all together?
Well, I think I got the pattern figured out, but I don't know if I have. I mean, I think I know where they're going. I think that those out there on the humps are not going to, it's not going to be that much of a factor. I mean, I've seen a lot of guys out there fishing, but, you know, you keep getting 2 or 3 more days of this, and those fish are they're gonna go. It's that time, the moon's coming full the 18th, and those fish, you know, they're programmed. They know where they're going, what they're gonna do, so I feel like they're coming here. Like the guys that fish the FLW, and just like myself when I was younger, I might come into this pocket and make me one pass it, and I may catch 5 keepers. And in my mentality when I was younger, I thought that I've caught all the fish and I leave. But you take the guys in the FLW and, you know, the other tours, when they pull in this pocket and they go around and they catch 5 fish, they don't pick up and leave. They go back there and they cover it again. You know, and it's taken me time to learn that as I've matured as an angler. And that's things you need to look at if you're a beginning angler and you think you've went through and caught all the fish in the area. That's not the case. If you go through an area and you're fishing a fast-moving bait and you catch 5 or 6 keepers or 5 or 6 fish, odds is if you'll go back through with something slower, there is a whole lot more fish that are less aggressive that are laying there that can be caught on something, a slower moving bait.
Tell us about your win last year. You're about on your anniversary. You win last year at Ouachita. Were you on them in practice? Did you have it hammered down, or were you kind of like you are here?
Well, I sort of thought I wasn't on them. I mean, it was really tough. Wasn't getting, but just like here, wasn't getting but about 4, maybe 5 bites a day. I made a decision after I made the first cut, I made a decision on the 3rd day to totally go against what I was doing, because I knew what I was doing was fading away. I dropped everything I was doing. I picked up a spearing bait and a jig, and I went to the river and started looking for dirty water. I had 3 keepers and had lost one that I thought was really going to hurt me, and I had 15 minutes left in the tournament to go, and I pulled back in this, just like one of these pockets, a spawning pocket, and I'm going down the bank, and I'm throwing my rattle trap and throw it out just like that, and right before I throwed it out, I said, Lord, if you just show me a 6-pounder on the bed, man, that'd be great. And about the time I made the cast, as soon as it hit the water, I looked to my right, and right there in the tree, lo and behold, it was a bass, and I pitched over to the bank. I had picked my flipping stick up, which I'd been using up the river, and I just hopped it by it real fast, and what I did is the wealthiest strike I ever had in my life. There she is. Oh, good, what a fish! Oh my God! Oh my gosh, what a fish! Oh! Woo! Oh my God, you see the size of this fish!
Coming up next on FLW Outdoors, one of the best names in the business, Mike Wurm.
Welcome back to Walmart FLW Outdoors and Lake Murray, South Carolina, 3rd stop on the FLW Tour. And there's more from Hank Parker coming later in the show. But first, Mike Wurm, an angler who has fished well here and is also appropriately named.
He's got the name and he's got the game. Only once in the last 6 years has Mike finished outside of the top 15 in the FLW season standings. And coming back to Lake Murray is coming back to his last championship. So let's revisit that thrilling moment for Mike Wurm as told by the members of his family and find out a little bit more about that perfect name. Some names are so perfect for the fishing profession, a bit of skepticism is not uncommon.
Without a doubt, I've been asked that question many, many times. It's got to the point where I automatically now, whenever I say my name, I spell it immediately. Because people just always wonder. And I've showed my driver's license many times of unbelievers that didn't know who I was, you know, and they didn't believe the name was right. It's a good icebreaker. It's a good conversation starter, and you know, people they don't forget it. It's a good thing to remember.
So genetically, it just your family lines. You were made to do what you were doing right now.
I think I was.
In spite of the ideal family moniker, Wurm spent the first part of his professional life as a medical technologist working in hospitals. But success in fishing tournaments prompted a big family decision.
His tournament earnings started outweighing his career earnings for medical technology, and so we had to ultimately make the decision to go one way or the other, because he was either fishing tournaments all the time or he was at the hospital, and he was never home. So we decided when it got close to that income point where they were level that we would go with the pro fishing, and haven't regretted it at all. It's been wonderful.
Mike's new career choice wasn't necessarily a complete departure from the medical field.
The medical field, there's stress there, of course. In the medical technology field and laboratory field, there's a constant stress to not only report results out, but you must report them correctly, and you must report them quickly. So you're on constant stress there. Well, I just kind of moved that stress around to a different direction, and now it's a stress to produce fish in a tournament situation, to stay focused.
The rest of the Wurm family discovered the new job uncovered new fringe benefits.
I have a lot of guy friends that are like, oh my gosh, your dad's a fisherman. And they come over and they see the garage, and it's just, they walk into a Walmart or something. It's crazy. And
some families may not have had the courage to follow the path Mike and Laura Wurm chose, but then the family would have missed out on a classic scene like the one played out across 2 time zones one frantic Saturday afternoon.
Well, I was home by myself, and Dad was away at this tournament, and a friend of ours, Sammy Lee, he used to work for Ranger, he called us. He goes, your dad's on TV, he's going to win this tournament. And so I called Mom on his cell phone. I'm like, Mom, Dad's almost going to win this tournament. And she's like, yeah, Sammy already called me, and you need to get to Walmart so we can watch it. And I was like, well, how am I going to do that? I can't drive.
We were on the freeway coming back this way, and we had to pass 2 Walmarts to get to this one, but we had to get Laura and get her with us. I was determined that all 3 of us were going to be together to see that, and it was really special for us to get to see it.
We walk into the electronics department, and he had just like weighed in, and he was holding up these 2 big fish, and it said Mike Wurm winner. Mom starts bawling in the middle of Walmart. My sister is running around the store going, oh my God, Dad won! I'm sitting there going.
Had Mike stayed in medicine, no doubt he would have enjoyed a successful career. But the Wurm family would have never experienced that thrill in Walmart 4 years ago, and the FLW Tour would have never met an angler so appropriately named. The medical profession's loss is professional fishing's gain. Mike finished 6th in last year's season standings. Currently, he's in 44th position, but look for him to move up here at Lake Murray.
Coming up next on FLW Outdoors, Hank Parker goes on the water with 7-Up pro Rob Pearson.
Hey, welcome back to FLW Outdoors. We're talking to Robert Pearson. Now, Robert, you're going to show us a little different twist here. We've been out fishing points and drafts, and that's all I've heard. I hadn't heard anything about shallow water or fishing around any docks or anything, so not many docks left, so I guess you found a unique area.
Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. This area that we're fishing now is fairly shallow, and I'm expecting the fish to move from our point back into the creek here, up into these docks, because with this wacky worm, we can get him to work.
Well, it is a wacky looking worm, man.
We can get it to work.
Well,
okay?
Show us how that's going.
Absolutely.
I'm real interested in seeing it.
Okay, let's go get him. That fish should be right here, Hank, okay? You know, we're going to go do our best, and when we all put it on the line, up on the scale, that's what it is what it is.
That's right.
You can't make it more than what it is. It's going to take, I say, 37 pounds, 40 pounds.
You think we'll make the cut?
Yeah. And that's strong.
That's real strong.
That's strong.
Have you seen any fish when you're riding around yesterday if it got warm, cruising?
No. No. We haven't seen cruising fish since we've been down here, Hike. Come on, Hike.
I get my drag cotton there.
Come on, Hike.
I told you I was wanting to catch me a pike. That's a pretty thing.
That's a pretty thing, Hike.
Now, if you was in the tournament, you'd be a little upset right now, wouldn't you? How about that? They tell me, Robert, that when you catch these, they're called chain pickerel. We call them jackfish.
Most people down this way call them jacks.
Jack. Well, they're pretty, but they tell me that that's a sign of a healthy lake.
That's a sign of a healthy lake.
Yeah, when you get chain pickerel, you got, I know Santee Cooper used to be full of them. And wherever we caught the jackfish, that's where we caught the bass.
Right.
When you're a rookie and you're out here and you know you haven't been on that lake, you hadn't experienced this particular situation, is there any particular individuals that have been a help on discerning what happened here or how they could help you here or give you some information that may help?
Oh, absolutely, Hank. I mean, for one, there was Larry and I just sit at the pairing meeting and just talked in generally about what's happening around the lake.
That's Larry who?
Larry Nixon.
I heard of him. Larry Nixon.
They tell me he's a friend of yours.
He won a tournament one time. So.
Yeah, I mean, he was very instrumental in just generally talking about things that I've already learned, but he just reiterated it and said, you know, have you thought about this and have you thought about that? How you fishing going? Well, how you doing? You know, he was really concerned genuinely about me and how things are going with me on tour. You know, because basically I said I don't know a lot of people. Just seeing most of the people that I do know on TV. And, but personally, there's no one that fishes the tour that fish around me, around my home and all. There's no one in Northern Virginia that fish on tour. There's no one that can say, Rob, you need to do this, you need to get with this person or that person. He's a friend of mine, but, you know, being on tour by myself, I guess Larry felt a little, said, hey, come here.
You know, Robert, it is such a pleasure to spend some time with people on the water that have a lot of fishing expertise, but have a great attitude and appreciation for what they got and how they got here, and I have had a ball.
Well, thank you, Hank.
You're really enlightening and encouraging and a real inspiration, so I wish you well in this tournament. It's going to be a shootout from what I see, and I don't know that anybody that's got fish located, it's an advantage right now. I think that these fish are definitely going to change, and I think they're changing. I think you're aware of that, so it's anybody's game, and it may as well be yours.
Might as well be mine, sir. So, like I said, I really appreciate it, and thanks a lot, and I'm going to do my best. I guarantee you that.
That's all you can ask for.
Coming up on FLW Outdoors, one of the local favorites, South Carolina's Davey Hite.
Welcome back to FLW Outdoors. Hank Parker rejoins us in just a few moments. He'll have FLW champion John Sappington. But first, let's talk about another champion.
There are lots of outstanding anglers from South Carolina, but the best known is probably Davey Hite from just down the road in Prosperity, South Carolina. He grew up on this lake, and he loves Lake Murray. He's also won about everything in the world of pro fishing. He's won the FLW Championship, the Bassmasters Classic. He's never won here, though, and that's one of the things he'd really like to do. A few months ago, we came to Lake Murray and spent some real quality time with Prosperity, South Carolina's Davey Hite. You've won almost everything in the sport. Does it make it hard now to allocate your time as to what you're going to do?
Well, it's, you know, pros and cons. You know, I remember sitting at home hoping somebody would call me to do something like this or do a promotion or a seminar or something like that, and now, you know, just don't have enough hours in a day, but that's a good problem to have, you know. Watch what you wish for because it might come true. I think that's probably the biggest key to my success is being able to adjust during the tournament. Making those on-water adjustments during the tournament when the pressure's on really kind of separates the people that have some success and the people that don't.
What was the big change in your life when all that success happened in several years?
Well, you know, just I had to sit back and kind of pinch myself and wonder, you know, I dreamed of all those things, but, you know, I also dreamed of being Joe Montana, too. But, you know, you didn't really think they'd be realistic dreams. You know, I just thank the good Lord that I've been blessed in so many ways. And, yeah, I don't feel any different. You know, if I go out fishing for $1,000 first place or $250,000 like I was able to win an FLW championship, you know, I give it 110%. And probably the only thing that has changed is my time away from my family, or that's the only negative. Everything else has just been wonderful, my dream since I've been 12 years old. It is very flattering. I went to Japan for a tackle show, and I felt like Garth Brooks. I got off the plane, and there were people there waiting on me. And, you know, I can ride around my hometown, and nobody cares where I stop. So the farther you get away from home, the more of a celebrity you are in this sport, it seems like. So.
Is fishing still fun for you?
It is fun, you know. Being competitive like I am, fishing tournaments is fun. Just going out and fishing may not be as fun for me as it was at one time, but you know, I'm just so competitive. If I'm going out fishing against, you know, one other person or 250 people, it makes that adrenaline pump. It gives me chill bumps when the flag drops and it's time to go. So my competitive nature, it makes it really, really fun. Kevin Van Dam and I and Mike Sermon, the three of us, went to the Bahamas and fished a little bit. And just the three of us, Kevin, Mike, and I, catching sharks in the Bahamas. You know, he was real competitive, so it was fun. You know, we had a great time.
You like where the sport is right now?
In the last year and a half, a lot of things have happened in this sport, and a lot of people out of the industry has drawn close to it and seem to be backing fishermen and the tournament trails, and that's positive. So I feel better now about the sport than I ever have, and you know, I don't feel like I'm really old. I'm only 37, but gosh, it'd be nice to be 21 again and get into this sport because there's a lot of great things happening.
What would you tell a 21-year-old who wants to get started as a pro fisherman?
I'd probably say fish all you can, get a good education. You need a little marketing background, a little public speaking, a lot of different things. It's not all about fishing. It's a lot to do with marketing, but you do have to fish. A lot of it is being able to catch fish because that's when you get to be on TV, when you catch fish. So, you know, it takes a diverse person to be able to really attract the sponsorships like they need to. So fish all you can and go to school when you need to, that's for sure. Television is what has really brought money into this sport, you know. It was only a few years ago we were fishing $50,000 first prize for most tournaments. That was big money. And, you know, the payouts have gone way up, and it's all because of television. During tournaments, I'll be like this, and, oh, excuse me, did you get that one?
What's your favorite part of this whole Davey Hite's life? What's your favorite thing?
Probably my favorite thing is having a wonderful wife and 2 kids. Next favorite thing is being able to come out here and do what I dream of doing. You know, you can take that for granted so easy, but to actually dream from the time you're 11, 12 years old of doing something, actually be able to be fortunate enough to come out here and do it for a living. You know, there's people that have jobs they dread going to each and every day. And I have to, you know, hit myself sometimes when I dread going to a seminar in another state or something. I'm like, hey, you know, you couldn't have a better job than this in the world.
Hite has won lots of big tournaments, but he's never won a major championship on his home lake. Now, he says he'll fish this one just the same, but I think a win on Lake Murray would mean the world to Davey Hite.
Well, coming up next on FLW Outdoors, Hank Parker joins FLW Tour champion from 2002, John Sappington.
You think this tournament will probably be won up shallow, but you're not sure that you can make the cut up shallow, meaning the fish are going to continue to move up, I assume.
Right.
But you're going to have to figure out a way to make that cut and then worry about catching the fish up shallow.
Exactly. I know there's some big fish that are shallow right now, and I've seen them. I've done a lot of my pre-fishing just by turning the trolling motor on and running and seeing fish, and then I can turn around and I can go back and I can try to catch those fish or come back the next morning or another part of the day and catch those fish.
You've actually seen them cruising, or have you seen them holding on the cover or bedding?
I've seen them up holding on cover. You know, I've tried a lot of other patterns, and I spent about 2 hours doing this pattern yesterday and had 3 bites doing it. and that was in the afternoon. So I thought, you know, so I pretty much, up until yesterday, I haven't committed to whether I was fishing shallow or deep. I've caught big fish deep and I've caught big fish shallow. But yesterday, I spent the first half of the day out fishing deep, and I never caught a fish. So then I spent like 2 hours shallow, and I had three bites on these little secondary points. So then this morning I just went out and started running this little pattern, and you know, I would have had a limit pretty early.
So you think the key for here is to be able to watch the fish, see what's going on, and make adaptations based on whatever this weather does?
Exactly. What I'm doing here, I'm kind of going out on a limb and predicting what it's going to be. You know, the next few days are supposed to be warm. If we get the sunshine, this water's warming up. If we get the sunshine, it's going to continue to warm the water. And this time of year, in the springtime, when that water's warming up, the fish move shallow. That's all there is to it.
Well, you're committing this much of your practice to this pattern. In a way, you're committing yourself pretty much to...
I committed myself to it yesterday. You know,
when you fished deep all morning and didn't catch any fish, moved up here and caught 3, you said, I'm going to commit myself to this and I'm going to work it out.
I commit myself to it.
Have you fished any other sections? It seems like almost everybody's talking about fishing in this area. Nobody seems to be going north. Have you tried further up?
Yeah, I've got some, my best areas are a ways from here. But I really don't like that in my best areas.
There you go with that mumbling again. I'm going to my best area, nothing take you over.
Yeah, I certainly don't want to take you. You got a loose mouth from what I hear.
Oh, you tell everybody everything. What do you do in a situation when you have 8 or 9 pounds fishing this pattern the first day and it takes bottom cuts 18 pounds and you got to catch 25 the next day to have a shot at the cut? You just keep doing what you're doing and ignore that, or you just completely abandon and go after whatever you think it takes to catch big fish?
Like I say, my main goal is to make the championship every year. I finished every year I fished the FLW, I finished in the top 50 in points. And you do that by consistency. You know, if I know how I can catch fish, I'm going to keep doing that. I'm not going to abandon it and go try something different until I've got my fish. Now, if I have my fish and, you know, say I'm catching a limit that weighs 10 pounds a day, and it takes 18 pounds a day, I'm going to catch my 10 pounds and then I'm going to go.
For you, you would rather finish 28 than to swing for the fence trying to get in the top 10 and fall and lose points for the race at Richmond.
Exactly. You know, this is my career. I'm trying to put together a track record over years of time. You know, I want to be able to say that John Sappington's a consistent fisherman, and you know, that's the only way I can do it.
So you'd go back out and catch you another 8 or 9 pounds?
I'd go back out and catch 8 or 9 pounds.
I understand that.
Up next on FLW Outdoors, John Sappington, Part 2.
How are you in the standing?
I'm in 24th place.
24th.
And that's another reason, you know, this is my main goal throughout the year is to make the championship every year. I mean, that's really my #1 goal. along the way, I'd love to win every tournament, but my main goal is to make the championship in every one.
You did pretty good in that championship last year, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Look at that bass.
Boy, it was a heck of a win for you. I mean, a heck of a win.
Yeah, it sure helped my career, and the Lord really blessed me.
You know, losing a big fish and adversity and being able to come back from that. A lot of people lose a big fish, you might as well shoot them in the head. They're done for the day. Their confidence is gone. And I know you had your little special bait, a little confidence bait. I mean, that was your little deal.
Yeah.
And you broke that thing in the championship tournament. What did that do to you?
Oh, that was mentally destroyed me, really. Took a lot of pressure off of me. Oh. I'm disappointed right now. I just broke the bill off my bait. I had a little teenage crankbait that I'd painted the night before, and I had 6 of them, and one of them had a little different action than what the other baits did. And I was talking to the camera boat, and I'm used to fishing out of a single console boat, and I just did a roll cast, and I hit the windshield and broke the bill off my bait. I caught 4 fish on it by 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I destroyed the bait, blew it up. And it really mentally, it was a big mental letdown to me. And I felt like that I had a good bag of fish already, you know, and I felt like that I had enough fish to win the tournament, and if it was the Lord's will for me to win, I'd win. So I didn't worry about it too much, but it did kind of destroy me.
I tell you, when you go to a lake and you fish with these guys and you don't catch any fish, you pretty much know they're protecting what water they found, and it's going to be fairly tough. I think this is going to be a tournament where there's going to be a lot of fish caught, but I think they're going to be caught out of confined areas. They've really pulled the water down, fish are changing, and nobody wanted to show us their secret spot. So I think we got an idea of the pattern. We'll just see how it unfolds. But everybody feels good about their little spot, but they're not going to take me and show me, and they're not going to, unfortunately, because of me, they're not going to let you see them. But I think there's going to be a lot of fish caught. It's going to be interesting how this tournament unfolds, and I do think when it's all said and done, the fish will primarily be caught shallow.
Coming up on FLW Outdoors, Dan Moorhead and a tip on jig fishing.
These are the 2 species of bass that we have here in Lake Havasu. Obviously the one with the smallmouth and the largemouth. I get a lot of questions on how do you tell the difference between the two, and they are the same family. One is obviously the mouth size. The mouth is not as big and as wide as the largemouth is. 2 is the coloration. You can see how the largemouth is a lot more green in color, whereas they call them bronzebacks. The smallmouth is more of a brownish tone, copper tone to it. And the species in itself are very different in a way. These are almost like forest strain bass in a way. They're very, very finicky at times, but they're also one of the most aggressive fish that you can have in a lake. And a largemouth, the northern strain, are always real steady. You know, they always act the same. They're easy to pattern, and once you find them, you usually find more of them. But as for power and for fight, the smallmouth has always been notorious for that. And for the simple fact is, you can see their fin configuration. They're a lot shorter and more compact. You have a lot more power here than you normally would with a largemouth. Physically, you can tell the difference right away by the way they look on what's a largemouth and what's a smallmouth.
Welcome back to FLW Outdoors. We are now in the home stretch of our preview of the 3rd stop on the FLW Tour. Let's take a look now at the remaining schedule for the 2003 season.
After Lake Murray, we go to Beaver Lake in Arkansas for the Walmart Open, followed by Kentucky Lake in May. In June, the Forest Wood Open on Lake Wheeler in Alabama. And then finally, the Road to Richmond ends in September on the James River with the FLW Championship.
Let's take a look now at some of the other events in the FLW Outdoors family. In the EverStart Western Division on Lake Mead, Sean Minderman of Post Falls, Idaho won with a championship catch of 8 pounds, 3 ounces. He won nearly $50,000 in cash and prizes. In the Texas Tournament Trail on Lake Olmsted, Craig Workman won with a championship catch of 25 pounds, 8 ounces. He gets $10,000 plus a fully rigged Ranger boat. The next event in the Texas Tournament Trail on April 5th at Sam Rayburn Reservoir. 2 events in the BFL to update you on. First in the Choo-Choo division, Lee Bird of Moody, Tennessee won with 20 pounds and 3 ounces. And in the Music City division, Scott Lefevers of Mount Juliet, Tennessee won with 12 pounds even. For more information on all of the events in the FLW Outdoors family of tournaments, be sure to log on to FLWOutdoors.com.
Our viewers often want to get involved and ask our pros question. We call it Ask a Pro. And this week's question comes from Zach Lamb of Augusta, Georgia. And his question is, what is the best time and place to throw a jig, and what's the best color to tie on? Well, Zach, with your answer, here's Evinrude Pro Dan Moorhead.
Well, Zach, that's an easy one for me. I believe that there is no bad time to throw a jig.
That's what we're looking for right there.
It'll work anytime, anywhere, any water clarity, any water temperature.
Oh, you got me soaking wet.
As far as color, I keep my life real simple. After packing fishing tackle in and out of motel rooms for about 9 years, I've tried to cull things down, and I live with a black and brown, black and blue, and then some form of green pumpkin in clear water situations, and that pretty well gets me through anything I need.
This is the part of the show we all go out on a limb and try and pick one angler who might win this tournament. That's hard to do. It's 175 anglers. I'm going to go with Dan Moorhead now. You just heard from Dan, and he has an advantage possibly for 2 reasons. Lake Murray is somewhat similar to Kentucky and Barkley Lakes, which are his home lakes, and also Dan's fishing real well right now. So I say watch for Dan Moorhead.
I'm going to go with Clark Wendlandt, and admittedly, I'm not stepping out with some bold decision here. Clark's won here before, and if we get into any kind of a spawning situation, Clark could be on him if we can get the weather just a little bit warmer, and he's got the experience to get right back into the winner's circle, so Clark's my pick.
Well, I picked David Fritz, and I will admit I've got a little bit of a home field advantage myself. I came down here and fished at Lake Murray just a couple of weeks ago, and they were really on a crankbait, and no one's better on a crankbait than Fritz. So if the crankbait holds up, then I think Fritz may be our man.
Now for these 3 and the other 172 pros in this event, obtaining points is going to be very important because of the stage of the season.
You're going to see some strategies change. When they started at Okeechobee and even the Atchafalaya Basin, it was all about making that top 10. But, you know, the top 48 guys are going to get to go to Richmond and compete in the Jacobs Cup for 500 grand. Now, that's a big deal. So now the points are very important. And as we were talking to John Sappington, if he's out of that top 10 after the first day, not going to make the cut, looks like he needs to really catch a great big string, he can't afford to take that gamble and swing for the fence. He's got to catch what fish he can to score enough points to be able to make the top 48 and make it to Richmond. So you're going to see strategies being set differently here in the middle of the season.
And we'll see how that strategy plays out next week as we bring you the championship from Lake Murray. And of course, the following week, Larry Nixon will join us with our champion and 2 other finalists. Thanks for watching, everybody, this week on FLW Outdoors.
Is it over? Yep. Here we go. Is it over?
Now for these 3 finalists, where should I be looking now? Is this our main camera now? Or you got 15 feet down, which has completely changed the complexion of this lake. It is 15 feet down from its normal level. We've been talking about Lake Murray. So now, Mike's our 3-shot from Lake Murray. And then a week following, Larry Miller. This week, the Walmart FLW Tour returned to South Carolina's Lake Murray. The FLW's 3rd stop of the season saw water levels down, but stringer weights up, thanks to some of the biggest bass of the year. Today's 10 finalists earned a shot at a $100,000 payday. We'll crown a champion today, starting right now on FLW Outdoors.
Welcome to Columbia, South Carolina. This is the 3rd stop on the Walmart FLW Tour. I'm Carlton Wing. I'm Taylor Carr.
I'm Charlie Evans. This event presented by Snickers.
Our 10 finalists have just taken the stage, and as we talk about this, weather comes into play at all of our events.
but especially at this tournament, weather came into play. It zigged when we thought it was going to zag, and we ended up with some wet stuff.
I'll tell you, we started out with 2 beautiful days, the fish moving up every day, getting more and more aggressive, and then things kind of turned south on us.
And in between that, record catches. Darrell Robertson the first 2 days had 49.8, a record for the first 2 days of an event. So the fish are here. We're going to see some big fish on stage today.
Our anglers were not affected also by the fact that the water level is down here at Lake Murray. They're working on the dam, and it took it down 15 feet below its normal levels.
Like fishing a brand new lake for these guys, but they adjusted, they adapted, and they figured out how to catch them. We've seen some huge catches this week.
Even 15 feet down, this lake is beautiful. Isn't it, crowd? Beautiful lake? Uh-huh.
We'll have more on the record-setting catches a little bit later on in our program. And coming up, you're going to see a shootout-style weigh-in like no other. One of these 10 finalists will win $100,000. Don't go away. We'll be right back on FLW Outdoors. Welcome back, everybody, to Columbia, South Carolina, the home of beautiful Lake Murray, and the third stop on the Walmart FLW Tour. And as we look at our 10 finalists on the stage today, each of them have picked up very valuable points in the season standings. Each of our pros trying to make that road to Richmond, where it is paved with $1.5 million for that season-ending Jacobs Cup Championship.
Our top 48 pros and top 48 claimers will qualify in that no-entry fee event. Last place, 48th place, pays $12,200. Our bracket-style competition will lead us down to our top 12, where somebody will win $500,000 in cash. That's September 11th through 14th in Richmond, and we'll have a great outdoor show, 4 days of great outdoor show.
And these anglers, I think, are thinking about that $500,000 first prize. That's a huge first-place prize, and all these points awarded today go toward the road to Richmond in September.
Well, making those big points is important, and making the big points started right here for these 10 finalists who started out with a full field of 175. They had to make that first big cut.
Yeah, they had to fish 2 days to make the top 10. These anglers you see on stage now are down from a field of 175. The first 2 days are critical. Here's a look back at days 1 and 2 on Lake Murray.
What are you doing?
Oh, no.
What do you want to go do?
Go fishing.
You want to go fishing?
Day 1. Why are these men smiling? Because they're about to fish Lake Murray, which with record low water might be fishing even better than usual. And if anyone should know, it's Davey Hite.
Never been this low this time of year, at least in my lifetime. I've been living here basically my whole life. So, but the one thing that is consistent about it is a good lake, a lot of big fish. So there'll be some good weights.
It's going to take a big sack every day, I believe. The water's down, the fish are kind of piled up, and there's a lot of big fish in this lake. So I think it's going to take a load.
Chevy pro Larry Nixon started off at the southeast end of the lake, near Goat Island. With a half-ounce brown jig tied on, Larry was targeting the outer edge of grass lines.
You know, I could see it, and I was just following it back and forth and really staying on that edge and just dropping that jig about 15 or 20 foot from the boat, keying on that what I thought would be the strike zone, which is that last 10 feet of grass, and that's where I caught that fish.
That was the only fish Nixon caught on a jig, but he ended up with a limit and almost 15 pounds. And that's enough for a top 10 at many events. But on the first day at Lake Murray, it took a lot more. Anglers needed almost 22 pounds to crack the top 10. Huge sacks came to the stage, none bigger than Oklahoma's Darrell Robertson.
These 5 fish weigh in at 26 pounds, 13 ounces, 26-13.
Robertson's stringer came on a crankbait, like many of the top catches. More than a few anglers had stellar day ones. In all, there were 85 limits and 13 stringers over 20 pounds. Snicker's big bass honors belong to Dave Lefebvre at 9-1.
Lake Murray, Day 2.
Anglers getting ready to make a move on the top 10 were about to get a curveball from Mother Nature when a chance of rain turned into a lightning storm, then a steady downfall. Again, the ability to adapt to changing conditions was at a premium. Daryl Robertson adapted real well, with almost 23 more pounds for a 2-day catch of 49.8, the biggest qualifying weight in FLW history.
Well, I caught one fish, and I fished another place, I didn't catch one, and I went to another place up there where they had a bite, and I caught 10 on 10 casts. So it was happening pretty good. 10 casts. Yeah, caught 10 on 10 casts.
Again, Robertson's big haul was on a crankbait way up the Saluda River. Other success stories, Bud Pruitt with 24.3 and the 9-pound Snickers Big Bass to make the finals. Nixon had almost 21. And Stanley Mitchell, who used a 28-pound sack to jump all the way from 126 into the top 10. The remaining finalists, Dan Moorhead, Jody Cordell, John Cruz, Wesley Strader, Chris Elliott, and Rick Clunt. On the co-angler side, an FLW first. 2 women made the top 10. Pam Wood of Bono, Arkansas, who led all qualifiers, and Laura Aldridge of Berkeley, Michigan. The co-angler title went to Lonnie Fuller of Hemp Hill, Texas, who caught 16 pounds in the finals to claim the $15,000 check. When we come back, we'll meet our 10 pro finalists.
Welcome back to the third stop on the Walmart FLW Tour. We are here at beautiful Lake Murray in Columbia, South Carolina. As we mentioned before, we had a full field of 175 professionals who started this tournament. We cut ourselves down to a top 10 who made what we call the Poland cut. Let's meet our 10 finalists right now. With his success here on Lake Murray and at each of our first 3 events, our first finalist is the new leader in the Land O'Lakes Angler of the Year race. He's in his second top 10 of the season and 7th lifetime, currently in 10th place from Paducah, Kentucky, Dan Moorhead. Our next finalist was one of 13 anglers to catch at least 20 pounds on day 1. He's in his rookie season on the FLW Tour, currently in 9th place, just over 11 pounds off the lead from Flowery Branch, Georgia, Jody Cordell. Our next finalist is a 3-time FLW champion. His success is consistent and legendary. He earned his 17th FLW top 10 thanks to a 19-pound stringer on day 1. He enters today's action in 8th place within 6 pounds of the lead from Ava, Missouri, Rick Clunn. Our next finalist is one of the rising stars on the FLW Tour. He won the FLW Ouachita Championship last year in dramatic style. He earned a slot in today's finals with a 22-pound stringer on day 1. In 7th place, 5 pounds off the lead from Spring City, Tennessee, Fuji Pro Wesley Strader. Our next finalist is competing in his 2nd season on the pro side of the FLW Tour. This is his first top 10. His day 1 total of over 24 pounds, 4th best of the field. Currently in 6th place, 4.5 pounds off the lead from Jetersville, Virginia, John Cruz. History is on the side of our next finalist. He won nearly $1 million in 1999, the most ever. His qualifying round here at Lake Murray, 49.5 pounds, again the most ever. Currently in 5th place, 3 pounds off the lead from Jay, Oklahoma, Daryl Robertson. Our next finalist turned in one of the greatest comebacks ever on the FLW Tour. On day 1, he was in 126th place. By day 2, he was in 10th. And in his first ever top 10, thanks to a 28-pound stringer. Currently in 4th place, 2 pounds off the lead from Fitzgerald, Georgia, Stanley Mitchell. Our next finalist is in the midst of his rookie season on the FLW Tour. His 16-pound stringer yesterday put him within striking distance of the championship. In just his 3rd FLW event, he's in 3rd place, just under 2 pounds off the lead. From Gloucester, North Carolina, Chris Elliott. Our next angler got to the finals thanks to the big bites. On day 2, he landed a 9-pound 3-ouncer. Yesterday, adding a 7-pound 9-ouncer. Currently in 2nd place, 1 pound, 9 ounces off the lead from Spring, Texas, Bud Pruitt. Our next finalist is a two-time FLW champion. His 21-pound stringer on day 2 set him up for a possible 3rd title. He's one of the biggest names in the history of professional fishing. Currently in first place with 17 pounds, 15 ounces from Bee Branch, Arkansas, Larry Nixon. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause to our 10 finalists here at the 3rd stop on the FLW Tour. As you can see, one of our anglers has a lead. The other 9 are chasing that leader. We'll find out how they got to where they are as we recap the exciting action from day 3 when FLW Outdoors returns. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to FLW Outdoors and the first day of the final round here on Lake Murray. This is one of the most talented top 10s in recent memory. Not only do we have legends like Larry Nixon and Rick Clunn, but we've also got 2 females who made the co-angler top 10 for the first time in FLW history. We'll talk to Larry and Laura Aldridge in just a moment, but first we'll send you upriver to Taylor Carr, who's with Daryl Robertson and Pam Wood.
Only hours after setting an FLW record with a 2-day total of 49.5 pounds, Daryl Robertson picked up where he left off. Just west of the Saluda River Bridge, Robertson put 2 fish in the boat in 2 minutes. And then, using the same crankbait as the day before and bumping it along the bottom, Robertson landed his 3rd keeper at 8.53.
We've moved a ways now upriver from the bridge across the Saluda River. And Daryl, you got 3 fish in the boat. You know, you're making this look way too easy.
Well, they're not big enough, so I can tell you that.
How many pounds do you have right now?
Probably about 6 pounds.
Is the current the key here?
Yeah, somehow or other these fish, there's a little bit of an eddy whooping around this stump right here. And like I say, I may have caught all of them that lives here yesterday, but I caught about 20 right here on this little point right here.
Now, is this the spot you caught 10 on 10 casts?
Yeah, I pulled up here and caught 10 on the first 10 casts.
That doesn't happen every day.
No.
Pam Wood of Bono, Arkansas had 13.5 and 13.7 the first 2 days. That is consistency. What were you doing, Pam?
One of my fellow co-anglers had given me a spinnerbait, and he said, don't put it down, don't put it down. And I just kept throwing it both days, and the Lord blessed me with some fish. I mean, I don't know a lot about fishing, so they just put me in the right spot, I guess.
Meanwhile, her pro, Daryl Robertson, was on his way to an early limit, but without a fish over 2 pounds.
It was a different story for Chevy pro Larry Nixon, fishing on the other side of the lake. Nixon was south of Saluda Dam, about as far from Robertson's position as you can get. And with 1 bite, he surpassed Robertson's limit. Nixon's 10th cast of the day produced a 7-pounder and made him an instant contender.
Man! Check that sucker out.
Nixon added 2 more healthy fish just after 9 o'clock for 15.5 pounds, barely an hour into the final round.
Enter 27-year-old rookie Chris Elliott, who was determined to make a strong showing in his first FLW final. And talk about confidence.
I bet I catch one right here.
Now that's confidence. Elliott was about to land his 3rd fish for a total of 7.5 pounds.
You get the net? I know you like that, didn't you? You can see these big boulders up on the bank, and there's a couple of them right here in the water. And when you bring that spinnerbait by that boulder, it's almost automatic. If I could call every one like that, that'd be good, wouldn't it?
Elliott didn't call his next 2, but he was inching closer to the lead. He got his limit at 9.42 to give him 13.5 pounds. At 10 a.m., he pulled to within 4 pounds of Nixon, who topped the leaderboard with 17.5. Then it was Robertson, Wesley Strader, and John Cruz.
Strader loves to fish a crankbait, and when the water gets dingy, he knows where to throw it.
That's what happens when you get this muddy water, man. They're laying on the bank. There is net, big one. Oh, God. God, get in here. I'm having fun.
what it's all about, just having fun. Plus the chance to win $100,000.
When we come back, 3 more anglers make a late morning run for that big paycheck.
Coming up.
Welcome back to Walmart FLW Outdoors and the third stop on the FLW Tour. This is Lake Murray, South Carolina, and we're at the mouth of the Little Saluda River. Darrell Robertson had a limit early. He is upstream from here, the rest of the field toward the main body of the lake to our east.
The anglers have now been on the water for 3 hours, and Larry Nixon is holding a slim lead over Chris Elliott. Wesley Strader's run has put the Fuji Pro into 3rd place. Darrell Robertson is still holding at 9 pounds, and John Cruz is in 5th place. But watch out, because Bud Pruitt is about to start a championship-type run. With just one 1-pound fish in the live well, Pruitt lands this 7-pound, 9-ounce behemoth and gets on a roll.
Oh, come off of the net. Big boy. Mwah. Yuck.
10 minutes later, it's another keeper. The Texan now has 3 fish and 10 pounds. He's using a crankbait in 4 feet of water, and within the hour, Pruitt is culling. And his wife was calling on the cell phone. While Bud wanted to get back to fishing, he was happy to share the good news.
I got 3 1/7 pounds. Okay, love you. Bye.
In less than 2 hours, Bud leaped to 2nd place with just over 16 pounds.
Sweet. Mwah.
At each stop on the FLW Tour, Energizer honors the angler who came back from the farthest point to make the cut. At the end of day 1, Stanley Mitchell was in 126th place with just under 7 pounds. Day 2, he made the cut in 10th place with a catch of 28 pounds and 1 ounce. Stanley, do you realize that that's the 3rd largest stringer in FLW history?
Well, I wasn't really sure, but that's the biggest 5 I've ever weighed in a tournament, and it was just an unbelievable day yesterday for me. I found these fish the last day of practice, and they were up real shallow, and like I say, the first day I just out-thought myself, but luckily I thought it through that night and made a change, and it really helped me. Worked out yesterday. That's what fishing's all about. It's the ones that can make the right changes that always seem to do the best.
Before noon, Mitchell had just 2 keepers, but one of them was a 5-pounder. At around 12:30, Mitchell's lunch hour began, and the Georgia native was culling by 1 o'clock. Another angler riding a hot streak is Rick Clunn. One of the legends of the sport has a limit just before noon and then begins culling. Clunn is using a crankbait he designed called a Thunder Shad. It's chartreuse in color and runs up to 6 feet deep. Clunn found his success 1 to 2 feet below the surface.
By noon, Darrell Robertson's hot start had cooled. The Castrol Pro was out of the top 5. Needing a big bite, Robertson motored all the way from the west side of the lake to the east side, to an area known as the Jim Spence Islands. Darrell proved that leaderboards can change quickly on one hook set. That 5.5-pounder put Robertson back into contention with a total weight of 14.5 pounds, within striking distance of Larry Nixon's lead.
2 of the most intriguing storylines of this tournament are fishing out of the same boat. Larry Nixon is one of the most accomplished anglers in the history of bass fishing, and Laura Aldridge, as a co-angler, is one of 2 females to make the top 10. That's the first time that's ever happened in the history of the FLW Tour. Laura, you've had quite a run here in your debut season on the FLW Tour. You're taking it tournament by tournament. It all began as an observer in Okeechobee. Describe what this is like now in the top 10.
It's great. I'm nervous, very nervous. Scared. I'm excited to be here. Larry's great. He's been helping me out. He's rooting for me as much as I am, so that's great.
Are you able to grasp the historic significance of the fact that never have 2 females made the co-angler top 10 before?
They never have? Never have. Oh, I thought it just hadn't been a while.
I'm impressed.
Oh.
I think it's great, Pearson.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited.
As the anglers headed back to the weigh-in tent, no one was out of the running. But it was clear a tight group of anglers were in position for a profitable day 4. Leading the charge, Chevy Pro Larry Nixon. And right on Nixon's heels is Bud Pruitt, trailing by a mere 1 pound 9 ounces. Coming up on FLW Outdoors, the exciting final day on Lake Murray.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to FLW Outdoors and the third stop on the FLW Tour. We have our leaderboard out in front, as we mentioned before, that we have certain leaders and everybody else is chasing Larry Nixon, who leads with 17 pounds, 15 ounces. Next is Bud Pruitt, Chris Elliott, Stanley Mitchell, and Daryl Robertson. That is your top five. And the next, John Cruz, Wesley Strader, Rick Plunn, Jody Cordell, and Dan Moorhead. Now, each of our anglers are anxious on the stage. We've also got some anxious fans out in the stands, and that's where Taylor Carr is right now. Taylor?
This is Daryl Robertson's wife, Carol, from Jay, Oklahoma. You know, in 1999, Daryl won $250,000 and then $600,000 in the M1. He only gets $100,000 if he wins here. Will he even cash the check?
Oh, yeah, he'll cash the check. He might let me cash it. I don't know.
Daryl seems so laid back out there, and nothing seems to rattle him. Is he that way in the rest of his life?
He really is. He really has 3 professions, and regardless of which he's doing at a particular time, he really turns things over to God. He does his part and goes on with life.
All right, Carol Robertson cheering for Daryl.
That's great. Well, let's explain about what's going to happen now. This is our shootout style weigh, and as we mentioned, Larry Nixon is our leader, and each of the anglers will bring up enough fish to take Larry's lead, or they are out of the race. And so we will bring them up now. We have met the anglers. Now let's meet their fish.
Dan Moorhead was the first angler to weigh in and the first to weigh out. He had 5 good fish on Saturday, but couldn't overcome a weak showing Friday.
Great catch out there today, man. You turned it around from yesterday.
Well, you know, when you're 6 pounds, you know, I only have 6 pounds first day, you kind of go for broke, and I wanted to, you know, try to make a good comeback, and so Van Dam would have had a hard time fishing with me today. I had the trolling motor on high, and I covered a whole lot of water. Yeah, I was just throwing a lipless crankbait, covering a lot of water, trying to get a quality bite, and I caught quite a few fish today. I can't complain. I just never got the ones I needed.
Fish just like me, short and fat.
The next angler to go actually had the best day on the water. Jody Cordell brought 18.4 to the stage, but because he'd only weighed 6 pounds the day before, he came up short.
Today the water cleared back up. It was rough out there, but I did get to catch a fish.
Wow. Slow rolling spin rate out there. What's the water depth you're working?
It's about 8 to 12 feet. I've been sitting the boat in about 21 feet. I was catching a lot of big fish that way, and most of my areas yesterday were, the wind just killed me, and that's why I had such a low weight. But also, this is my first FLW top 10 and third FLW tournament period, and I was really nervous. And I think I fished too fast yesterday. I wasn't doing what I needed to, and today I relaxed a little bit and just fished.
There he is. That's about 3 or 4 feet. It's pretty shallow, so I've been fishing a lot of deeper water, and let's hope that this helps out, that I move back a little bit.
You did a great job, and you represented yourself well. Congratulations. Let's give him a great round of applause. Good job, Joe.
That's Jody Cordell.
It didn't take long for Fuji pro Wesley Strader to hit the road. He'd gone for a big bite Saturday, but only managed 1 fish.
I told Taylor when he pulled up this morning I'd had 1 big fish on. It's the only bite I'd had, and I said, to win this thing, I'm going to have to do something different and go for broke. And when you get here, that's the only thing you can do. You give yourself the opportunity to try to win, and that's what I've done today. I went and covered a lot of water like Dan did, but I had 2 bites, and that's the only fish I boated. But I'm tickled death just to be here. This gives me a little confidence going into the next one anyway. I've had 2 real bad ones to begin with, so it's good to be back in the top 10. I'm throwing a flat shad crankbait right here, and it's the only fish I caught got it on the stump. Watch, I lose the reel handle about 4 times.
It's wet out there.
Just a little bit. I think these are the worst fishing conditions for a fisherman there is, because you lose all your mobility, and it puts a lot of fatigue on your hands, and you can't grip nothing, you can't hold on to anything. It's just, you can't feel anything either. So you're at a disadvantage right off the bat.
Wes Strader, Spring City, Tennessee. Let's give our Fuji Pro a great round of applause.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, 3 of our anglers have weighed out. 7 remain. We will continue our quest toward a champion when FLW Outdoors returns. Welcome back to FLW Outdoors. Let's reset the scene. 3 anglers have weighed out, and Rick Clunn is in the lead with 25 pounds, 14 ounces. But it took all 5 of his fish to get there. So if John Cruz passes Clunn, the Hall of Famer is out. And that's what Cruz did with his 5th fish.
Great job today, Rick. Beautiful stringer fish you have, but not quite enough.
No, I just lost my bigger fish the last couple of days, and you need that on this Lake Murray to win the tournament. I tell you, I've had as much fun this week fishing. I've gone to bed at night, can't wait to get up. I mean, practice was just extraordinary. I mean, really, I've looked forward to going out there every day. Every day in practice, I was catching the 7-pounder, and you don't do that. I don't care how much you fish every day.
Hey, this is a great day for the final day. I mean, I pray for days like this for the finals, because finals are always on Saturday, and that's when you get your most traffic unless you get weather like this.
Fishing in solitude, Clunn targeted pockets and alternated between 2 crankbaits and a spinnerbait. You want to see how tough Rick Clunn is? Just after 7 o'clock, with the air temperature 49 degrees and the water temperature not much higher, Clunn embedded a hook in his hand while trying to free his line from a rope. The line didn't give and the rope didn't give, and Clunn was nearly dragged underwater. A few seconds later, the hook popped free, but Clunn was soaked from head to toe. He fished almost 7 more hours without changing clothes.
Day 1 and 2 record setter Daryl Robertson then tried to take the lead, but fell well short.
That's all. 2 fish for Daryl Robertson, 4 pounds, 6 ounces. Your toughest day came on the final day.
This reminded me a lot of practice.
Robertson had a terrible practice, but followed it with that record catch in the qualifying round. On the final day, when his bite left him again, Robertson knew what the problem was.
You know, I was thinking about it as I was coming down the lake. You know, all them big fish I caught the first 2 days, every fish I weighed in, the sun was shining when I caught them. You know how that sun popped out that second day for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then late that afternoon? I tried not to think about that, but that's the truth.
Next up, Stanley Mitchell, who with his 4th fish took the lead and knocked John Cruz out.
Great job over all 4 days, John.
Thank you. What a sensational week. I had no idea that I was on the type of fish that I was on coming into this tournament. I didn't know if I could go catch a limit or if I could catch 24 pounds is what I caught the first day. So, yeah, that was early this morning. I caught one on a real shallow running crankbait. He hit right where the trolling motor had just churned up mud.
Nice chunky little 2-pounder. Thank you very much. I love the taste of fish in the morning. That fish had to be just a kamikaze. I didn't have to fight through the line out. He just plastered it.
Cruz later lost a nice fish, but stayed with that lipless crankbait until he hooked a 3-pounder.
Very good.
He was on his way to a limit and a 3rd place finish, his best as an FLW pro.
Barely hooked, but I got him in this time. That's the one I needed. That's what I'm talking about right there.
Great job of fishing over 4 days. Let's give him a good round of applause. John Cruz.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is March Madness, and we are down to our final 4 here at Lake Murray. When we return, we'll whittle down and troll a little closer toward crowning a champion here on the 3rd stop on the FLW Tour. Don't go away.
Let's reset the scene. Stanley Mitchell has the lead and 6 anglers have weighed out. Only 3 have a chance to catch Mitchell: Larry Nixon, Bud Pruitt, and Chris Elliott.
Taylor Carr is out in the audience with some anxious members who are looking at one of the remaining finalists. Taylor?
Chris Elliott's about to weigh. His wife, Rhonda, from Gloucester, North Carolina, with us now. Now, can you ever look at Chris's face and tell how he's done in a tournament?
Yeah, usually I can. He looks really serious. Let's see if he looks serious today.
How about now? Can you tell?
He looks pretty serious. Let's hope it's a good day.
This is just his 3rd FLW event. Did he think he'd get to the top 10 this soon?
Well, Chris is very confident and dedicated, so I think he felt like he was going to do pretty well.
Are you confident?
Yeah, I feel confident.
And proud of him anyway, I'm sure.
Very.
Rhonda Elliott in the Chris Elliott cheering section.
Rhonda read her husband's intensity well. Chris took the lead on just 3 fish, including 1 whopper, which brought his 2-day total to 30 pounds, 9 ounces.
Bud Pruitt came to the scales next and was unable to match his day 3 total, bowing out with 3 fish for just under 4.5 pounds. This is how Bud Pruitt's day began. He overslept, missed the caravan of finalists from the Walmart parking lot, and joined the group at the ramp. But the energetic Texan was unfazed and talked with us about his morning pattern on the southeast corner of the lake.
What I'm fishing here is I'm fishing some shallow little bays that have some big boulders down there, a little bit of mixed in grass, and I'm just fishing a lipless crankbait, running it fairly fast over the top of all that broken rock and scattered grass. These are little bays these fish are going to pull up and spawn in, so every morning they kind of pull up on these little points early, and if you're lucky, you can get 2 or 3 of them off this little series of points right down through here.
Okay, that's 7 down, 3 remain, and here comes a first look at our tournament leader entering day 4. Larry Nixon will bring up his fish. Larry weighed in 17 pounds and 15 ounces yesterday to take a 1 pound, 9 ounce lead over Bud Pruitt. Larry now trails by 12 pounds and 11 ounces. 12-11 is what we will need out of Larry Nixon to be able to retake the lead and stay in the game.
Nixon's 3 fish for 4 pounds 11 ounces was not enough. His departure meant the top 2 anglers from Friday were out of the picture.
I stayed with it hard, folks. I really did. I tried hard. You can't believe how hard I tried.
Here's how Larry Nixon's day began.
Well, it wasn't a good start, that's for sure. That water was real rough out there, and I had my net tied down up there, and somehow or another that handle slid out from under that thing, and I saw it just about the time it came out, and there wasn't nothing I could do about it. So we're going to have to start out without a net and do it the old-fashioned way today.
This is tournament leader Larry Nixon, who has won in each of the past 2 years on the FLW Tour. Larry's gunning for number 3 in this final round. Larry, as tournament leader, you know there's a lot of pressure on you. All of the other 9 guys are gunning for your weight.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on me. Well, my only problem is to try to figure out what's happened to these fish and if they're still going to bite the way I've been catching them all week. I'm going to have to try some other things today because yesterday my fishing got so tough after about 9 or 9:30 that I just couldn't get a bite. So I'm going to try to fish my way through this thing. You know, I've been living and dying with a diamond shad and cranking that real shallow water up there in about 3 to 4 foot of water, and they dropped some more water out of this lake, and this lower end has really been affected by it. So, you know, I just got to figure out what these fish have done, and if I can figure that out, or they'll start biting again up there real shallow, you know, I can win. And there's going to be somebody catch a big sack today, so I've got to catch a big sack if I want to win.
It was a great tournament. You know, I'm not satisfied, believe me. I'm not like some of these younger guys. I'm not satisfied with top 10. I want to win.
Larry Nixon wants to win, and he'll be back with the review show. Let's give him a great round of applause for Larry Nixon.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are down to our final 2 anglers. Our champion here on Lake Murray will be either Chris Elliott or the challenger, Stanley Mitchell. Just 1 pound and 7 ounces separate those 2. We'll crown a winner when we come back on FLW Outdoors. Welcome back to FLW Outdoors. We are down to our final 2 anglers. Our champion will be either Chris Elliott, who has 30 pounds and 9 ounces, or Stanley Mitchell, 29 pounds and 3 ounces. That is first and second place. Third place, John Cruz, then Rick Clun, Jody Cordell. Each of those are finals. Also in 6th place, Larry Nixon, Bud Pruitt, Dan Moorhead, Darrell Robertson, and Wesley Strader. That is your top 10. I am on stage now with our tournament leader, Chris Elliott, 30 pounds, 9 ounces. You have weighed in so far. It has been a phenomenal tournament for you.
Yeah, it's been a great tournament. I hear people say they had good practices, and I hear some say they had bad. I had a horrible practice. I found a little old area where I caught 3 not even big ones, 2-pounders on a rattle trap, and the last 2 days of practice, I boated 1 keeper fish. And I just went back to that area where I caught those 3 on a rattle trap and dug a little bit deeper and found out how to really catch them.
Let's take a look at some video of you out on the water, and let's talk a little bit about these adjustments, because we had sunny skies and some beautiful weather on day one, and then the weather just got worse and worse until today. It was just nothing but rain. How did that affect your fishing?
You know, I'm not sure that it really affected my fishing so much as what I was having to do. I caught my first 2 days bags on a crankbait, and that hard northeast wind we had yesterday and today, I'm watching what I'm doing here. It put 3-foot muddy rolling waves on my crankbait fish. So I've been going through crankbait withdrawal for the past 2 days. That's my favorite way to catch them, and I haven't had a place to catch them on that crankbait in the past 2 days. So I had a little old grass bed. There was a backup plan, and I was forced to fish there all day yesterday and forced to fish there all day today. And I just went there and did the best I could. I went over there and I caught those 2-3 pounders in about 30 minutes, and it died off a little bit. And then I caught that 7-pounder about an hour later. I was pulling my spinnerbait out of the water, and I had a little old Eagle Claw trailer hook on it, which I always throw on my spinnerbait. He jumped out of the water after that spinnerbait as I was pulling it out of the water, and that little old trailer hook snagged him right in the corner of the mouth, and he just laid there like, net me. I dipped the net under him. I got him in the boat, and you could probably hear me screaming for 10 miles.
There's the value of a trailer hook, folks. All righty, now talk about what this would mean to you. Right now you have a 1-pound and 7-ounce lead over Stanley Mitchell. What would this mean for you to turn in a championship here at Lake Murray?
Well, it's been what I've been striving for since, I was 12 or 13 years old. That's when I started fishing bass tournaments, and I said, if I put my mind to it, I can win one of those one day. I've watched people like Rick and Larry, it seems like every weekend, winning tournaments on FLW, and I said, I just want to be there one day, and I've put the blinders on and been focused as much as I can, and I hope it works out.
All righty. Well, Chris Elliott is our leader. Our challenger is Stanley Mitchell. He's with Charlie Evans.
Stanley's had a phenomenal tournament here. Day one, not quite so great.
No, it was pretty rough, Calvin.
Only just 6 pounds on day one. On day two, the heaviest stringer of the event, 28 pounds.
Yeah, that was just one of those blessed days, Charlie. I figured out a little something, and I started catching fish about 8:30 that morning, and just had a phenomenal day. I caught like 9 fish that day and broke back 3-4 pounders, and that's unheard of.
So you figured out a little something, and I heard you'd been on day one standing out, throwing with your crankbait into the bank and bringing it in. Day two, you just turned around.
Well, not quite that much, but I moved my boat out and fished, probably 3 to 5 foot, where the first day I fished like a foot, to 2 foot deep. So just it wasn't much. Doesn't take much a lot of times, but that's all it was, and I was just blessed that day.
I tell you, you had a tremendous stringer yesterday right there in contention today. 1 pound, 7 ounces out of the lead. Let's take a look at you on video out there at Lake Murray. Stanley Mitchell in action. Tell us what you're doing.
I'm spinnerbaiting today. I never could get anything going at all with my crankbait, so I like to fill out the boat, I guess. I don't remember that. But I tell you, it was a wonder anybody caught anything out there today. That's about as cold and nibbles as I've been in a pretty long time.
We talked to your camera boat driver, and he said under the toughest circumstances he'd ever seen, he'd never seen anybody as focused as you were the entire day.
Well, you have to. I've been fishing a long time with Rick and Larry and different ones, and, to beat those guys, you got to stay focused. And, I learned a long time ago, when you go out, you got to have a game plan, and you can't wonder if I should, move over here and move down the lake, if they're not biting. And I made up my mind, this place that I'd found, that it had the chance, the capability to win the tournament, because I was just right in the mouth of a creek, and all the fish should be moving in to spawn. And I had the perfect place, and, I just stood right in there and caught what I could catch.
He did a great job. He's weighed in 4 fish so far. One more could put him in the lead. Let's see what Stan Mitchell has. Stanley, do you have fish number 5?
Let's take a look now. Stanley Mitchell is unable to bring up 1 pound and 7 ounces. We have a champion, Chris Elliott, your champion here on Lake Murray. $100,000. Now, Chris, just a moment ago, you said if I win this thing, you're going to see a guy run around this stage.
I'm going to tell you, I'll do anything I have to do to win it. It's been a dream of mine, like I said, like I was 12 or 13 years old, and I just can't believe it happened.
$100,000. This has got to be a peak for your career and a great start for a good, young, budding professional angling career for you.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. Things are looking up. I'm excited to go from here.
All righty. Well, we've got some excitement coming up the stage right here. Here's your wife. Talk a little bit about what this means to you and your family here.
It's a blessing. I can't believe it.
Were you surprised, or could you tell from the look on his face?
Yeah, because he was so serious. I could tell.
All righty. Well, I tell you what, we've got all kinds of family members coming up. We have our check presentation now. Here's Don Johnson from Walmart. Here we go. Here's the big hardware right here. All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your champion once again from Lake Murray, Chris Elliott, $100,000. Be sure to tune in next week as we review this exciting championship with Larry Nixon, who just may interview himself next week on FLW Outdoors. And for all the latest information on the FLW Outdoors family of tournaments, log on to FLWOutdoors.com. Thanks for watching, everybody, this week on FLW Outdoors.
Yeah! Oh, come off of the net. Big boy. Mwah. Yuck. Oh, get in here. Nothing. I got nothing.